Hello and welcome to my episode by episode review of Doctor Who Series 1, which if you watch my Series 11 reviews and you're familiar with that style of format, it will be an in-depth review of each story from this respective series. The difference being is that this series, and a lot more to follow, will have two-parters and multiple episodes in a story, so when I get round to those, I'll probably review both parts together as they're one whole story. However, for now, sit back and join me on the trip of a lifetime with the one that brought it all back. For those of you that don't know, there was a time when Doctor Who was no longer on the air. Those were dark times. 1989 saw the end of the classic series, and while there was a TV movie in 1996 starring Paul McGann that hoped to revive the series, the movie wasn't a rating success in the USA, putting an end to the hopes of a regular new series being back on TV. However, writer Russell T Davies had been lobbying the BBC to revive the show since the late 1990s, and was announced in September 2003 that Doctor Who would be coming back, but in a 45-minute format, as Davies was inspired by Buffy the Vampire Slayer, using their structure of series-long story arcs. Christopher Eccleston was then cast as the Ninth Doctor in April 2004, with the aim to make him more down-to-earth than previous Doctors had been, but still hoping to be surprising, edgy and eccentric that came with past Doctors. Billie Piper was cast a month later as companion Rose Tyler, with Davies describing her as the ordinary person who stumbles into something extraordinary and finds herself in the Doctor their equal. Camille Cajuri and Noel Clarke were cast to play Jackie Tyler and Mickey Smith as Rose's mother and boyfriend, with the aim of giving the characters more of a life at home. This made a change from previous companions of the classic series, as we had rarely seen their family members or their home lives, but it was all part of Davies's plan and idea to bring Doctor Who down to Earth. Davies wanted an alien menace that could be easily mistaken for something human, and decided to settle on the Autons, shop window dummies that previously appeared twice in the Jon Pertwee era. Davies originally offered the directing chair to none other than Edgar Wright, acclaimed director of the Cornetto trilogy, but he had to decline it as he was working on Shaun of the Dead at the time. So the episode was then directed by Keith Boak, who also directed episodes 4 and 5 this series as part of the first production block, though he would never work on Doctor Who again, for the time being. With all that out of the way, let's cut to the story. The episode opens with ordinary shop assistant Rose Tyler looking for employee Wilson, but ends up being chased by living plastic mannequins. However, a stranger known only as the Doctor rescues her and proceeds to destroy the shop with an explosion. Talk about a first meeting. After encountering the Doctor again when both are attacked by a plastic arm, Rose decides to investigate the Doctor and meets Clive, who has been tracking the Doctor's frequent appearances throughout history. Rose's boyfriend Mickey is replaced with a plastic doppelganger, but the Doctor shows up and beheads the duplicate, taking Rose to the TARDIS, hoping to use the head to tap the control signal to the Nestene consciousness. But the Nestene activates all the Autons across a shopping arcade, and the invasion of plastic has begun. The main aim of Rose as an episode was to bring Doctor Who into the 21st century and update it for a new audience, and for the most part the episode succeeds with flying colours. The opening sequence where we see Rose go through her daily, everyday routine is great. It's instantly relatable to viewers, and through little dialogue and all the visuals we can see why Rose would want to escape this repetitive lifestyle. The Autons were also a great choice for the first villains on the series, as again they're an everyday object that we see all the time, and if kids watch the episode and see a shop window dummy, they'll hopefully be frightened by it. The Autons are very well realised here. They move jerkily, they're quite clumsy, and we even hear the plastic creak as they walk. Great details. Furthermore, I'd argue the character Clive, played by Mark Benton, is part of these updates as well, as he's a conspiracy theorist who posts them on the internet, pretty much establishing that Doctor Who now has a presence on the internet, which it really didn't in the classic series, as there wasn't any internet. I'd say that was more of a blessing. All these updates definitely work in the series' favour, and I love further details like seeing the explosion of the shop on BBC News. It just gives the whole thing more scale that Russell would use in many of his Earth episodes, and for the most part it really works here. As for Christopher Eccleston as the Ninth Doctor, what do I think?
I'm the Doctor, by the way. What's your name?
Rose.
Nice to meet you, Rose. Run for your life!
I miss you, Chris. Eccleston is such a reassuring presence here. He has the screen presence of both Tom and Colin Baker, the humanity of Peter Davison and Paul McGann, and even brings some of the vulnerability that Patrick Troughton brought to the role. while still doing a great job of making the role his own, I think. Furthermore, as a character, he's more or less given a clean slate, with hints at a previously established backstory, but not giving us all the details. It's similar to how the first and third Doctors were introduced in their respective eras. The first Doctor only revealed he was cut off from his own people, and with the third Doctor, even though we had seen the Doctor be exiled to Earth in his last incarnation, the series starting in a new decade with a new Doctor almost made it feel like you didn't need to see it. My Christopher Eccleston moment of the week has to be when Rose asks him simply, "Who are you?" The Doctor answers that he can feel the Earth moving around the Sun and him falling through space holding onto a very tiny planet in the universe. I adore this speech as it makes the Doctor look and feel so omnipotent, but also brings home the idea that he's a traveller who doesn't really belong, hence why he has the feeling of falling through space all the time, never staying consistently, almost like a god on Earth. Some may argue that this makes the Doctor too powerful and too much the stuff of legend, and it would only get more and more bigger with more and more titles being given to the character across the new series. But in my opinion, I feel it's a good step in the right direction, and Russell, obviously being a fan since childhood, will have his own interpretations of the series, and now that he's in charge of the series, he can fulfill those decisions now. Though despite being an alien, he has a northern accent, the explanation being,
Lots of planets have a north.
I buy it. Plus, I do like these subtle hints of regeneration with outright telling us. He looks in the mirror proclaiming it could have been worse, hinting at a recent regeneration. As for Rose Tyler, well, I'm not the biggest fan of her, and I think she's pretty unlikable. Before you crucify me in the comments, please let me explain. While I think Billie Piper is a terrific, fantastic actress, I'm really not a huge fan of the character, coming across as a bit unlikable for me. For example, after meeting Clive, she dismisses him as an online conspiracy freak. Yeah, but you're the one who's just been attacked by shop window dummies. Don't you think that's a bit hypocritical? Furthermore, after the whole Auton invasion is over, her mother rings up scared and she simply laughs and puts the phone down. Yeah, 'cause if my mum was on the phone to me scared, I'd totally laugh and ignore her. If there was a scene where she simply said, "It's alright mum, you can go home now, everything's fine," then that would be okay, but laughing and putting the phone down, that just seems kinda mean-spirited. Finally, her boyfriend Mickey has been eaten by a bin, held captive by an alien plastic, is probably in need of help and support for the rest of his life, and what does she do? Gives him a kiss and runs off with the Doctor. That's pretty harsh. I get that she has to be the companion by the end of the episode, but there could have been a better way to do this. However, there are moments from her I do like in this episode, such as setting off the fire alarm in the restaurant to get the innocent people out, and I like how she claims to have no A-levels, no job, no future, but she at least has the bronze in the under-7s gymnastics, and uses those to help the Doctor defeat the Autons. It's cheesy, but it's a good moment for me. Though her best moment for me has to be the reaction to the TARDIS, as this is the first time that we the viewers have seen it as well. We see her reaction of disbelief. She goes back outside and goes all around the box, and on re-entering we see the inside as well, and it really doesn't disappoint. As for Jackie and Mickey, while this isn't their finest episode, they grow more as characters in later episodes. Mickey is more or less a cowardly klutz here, but in time he proves he's more than just Mickey the idiot. It's good potential, I think, for a character to go from someone who doesn't think they're worth it, they're kind of a klutz, they're kind of an idiot, and they regain their courage over time. I think it's good potential there. Jackie Tyler is also a flirtatious chatterbox mum, but like Mickey, she'd also change as a person, and even see the positives of travelling with the Doctor as well. So while they don't have much to do here when compared to previous episodes, it's more or less to set up their characters, and hopefully the potential pays off. I mean, it does, I think. The production design is great as well. The scenes where the Autons attack the public is great stuff, and 35 years later, and we finally see them break through shop windows. Fun fact, when they did it in Spearhead from Space, they actually couldn't afford it, so in the episode, in 1970, we hear the glass breaking, but we never see the Autons come out of it because of budget reasons. So now Russell has fulfilled that. Some of the CGI has dated in places, like the green screen for the Nestine consciousness, but it's nothing too distracting. However, the TARDIS interior I really like. The whole thing just looks enormous. It has a rusty aesthetic to it, but also an organic look to it as well, as if it's a living being that grew. The music by Murray Gold is a bit hit and miss this episode. I love the music used when the Doctor gives his speech, and his rendition of the theme is pretty good, but it's a bit too orchestral for my liking. However, I can't deny it always gets me excited when I listen to his rendition of the Doctor Who theme. Music used in the opening montage is also a bit too intrusive, and at times I struggled to hear what the actors were saying. Nothing too awful, but just a bit too over the top, I think, for this episode. The titles are also great. The TARDIS going through the time tunnel is a great image, very reminiscent of the titles from the Tom Baker era. Great stuff. The tone of the episode is also a bit CBBC for my taste in areas. For example, Mickey being eaten by the bin is way too cartoonish, and it almost comes across as comical rather than scary. Furthermore, while Autumn Mickey is cool, it's just too over the top to blend in, and should have been a bit more subtle. How Rose didn't notice that he clearly looks plastic, I find a bit hard to buy. Despite not being entirely perfect, I don't think we could have asked for a better opening for Doctor Who in the 21st century, hoping to entertain both old and new fans. While tonally inconsistent at points, Rose certainly made a good enough impression to ensure that the series would still have a future on TV again. With an excellent new lead, great performances, an updated monster, and a relatable down-to-earth feel, Rose is definitely a great return for everybody's favourite sci-fi series. Well everyone, that's all from me. Be sure to like, share and subscribe. Let me know in the comments below what you think of Rose as an episode and whether or not you think this was a good way to bring Doctor Who back into the 21st century. Let me know and I'll give them a read, and I shall see you all next time. Goodbye.